Sandy McClatchy. I just decided not to read a poem. Read something else instead, because I want to draw your attention to the last stone in the monument that Stephen Yenser and Lanny Hammer and I are in the process of shaping and placing, and that is Merrill's letters. He was a superb letter writer, as you would guess, and I'm going to read two letters from the summer to me, because I didn't have time to go through the other 20,000 today. The summer of 1973, one in July, one in August. I think, you'll see the letter, I think for the first time in my life, and certainly the last, I was depressed that summer. And I had gone to see a psychiatrist, to no effect whatsoever. I can't remember what really had brought it on, but I suppose that it was the business of what kind of life do I make being gay. It was all still, even in my mid-20s, late 20s at this point, it was a trouble. And I think that's why I went to see it shrink. It turned out to be a complete disaster. Oh, God, I forgot. Because I was assigned to a Yale shrink, and he was literally the younger brother of Luke Skywalker. Blonde, California, I fell immediately in love. Complicating the problems that I had gone to consult with him. Anyway, I don't know how much of this I wrote to Merrill, but here's his response to this sort of cri de coeur. And you'll notice, I mean, the enormous reserves of understanding and sympathy that he draws on. And also, it's something we found in all the letters, how so much of his personality is embodied. The letter isn't just about one thing. He includes one serious thing amidst other stories of the day. He's an incontinent storyteller, and almost every letter has wonderful anecdotes in it. Anyway, this will give you an idea of the kind of book that, big book that will be coming in a year or two. So this is July 1973. Dear Sandy, I'm afraid I shall have to upstage you where heat waves are concerned. A girl we ran into last night who digs at the Agora said it had been 111 degrees in the shade there yesterday. And in the sun, well, her thermometer stopped at 122, she said. And when the mercury reached that point, she applied a cold compress. Not dry heat either. Pollution sees to that. We keep the tub filled for periodic immersion, which came in handy yesterday afternoon, l'heure de l'arrosage, when everybody's water was turned off for 12 hours without warning. A plumbago can look almost reproachful as cat. You've had a bad time. I'm sorry. I had one last Christmas, the first in 10 years, and didn't really pull out of it until April. That is not to upstage you, just to show that I understand. What is the cure? Work, as the unhappy girls of Chekhov keep telling us. Easier said than done. In retrospect, I think, from what I've seen of you, it might well be the case that these are growing pains. Certainly they have everything to do with the sense that the life one has arranged to live is intolerable, that a skin must be shed, that something more is in motion than the manic depressive pendulum so familiar to others. Others, indeed, become suspiciously two-dimensional during these spells. And this is a kind of hell for sociable types like you and me. One resents having to spare them, or resents even more if one turns to them for help, the way one's black mood seems positively to settle their stomachs, like Ferne Branca. But if the point is to change, to be changed, how else can this happen except by learning to recognize among thousands of objects which few have secret meanings for you, and to trust them, they being you, they being the only ones that can't, to the degree that their value lies within you, betray the trust. By objects, I mean people, mainly, as in that passage in one of the Oz books, when Dorothy finds herself in a palace crammed with the Bibelot, only 7 of which are the enchanted king and his family. These turn out to be 7 purple objects, as you recall. Something like that, in any case. As for trusting me, of course you can, but you will have to trust yourself even more. Since getting here, only 8 days ago, I've kept busy trying to do a bit more with Urania. David Cowstone thought it was condescending toward the Greeks. My nephew Robin said it was cruel, not his kind of perception. I suspect it belongs to his latest companion, a girl from San Francisco whom I quite like, actually, though she's overweight and bald. They were in Venice and are now in a cave in Santorini. Still, a helpful reaction. Things mustn't always go without saying. Things in a poem, I mean. And I've set about blending in a non-euphoric visit below stairs to the parents feeling anxious and homesick. Your remarks help in another way. We all need encouragement and praise. 3 o'clock, time for cottage cheese. Unavailable here, but easily made. If it helps to write me about your troubles, don't let shyness hold you back. In fact, remembering Nancy Mitford's Cedric, is that his name? At his first appearance at the Montdors, perhaps you'd do well never to mention shyness again. And if you'd rather I didn't comment another time upon what you tell me, I should understand that very well. Bless you, my dear, James. This is a month later. I apparently must have been in this, tossing and turning on the same couch. Dear Sandy, Sunday, a day for letters. The one David is writing downstairs begins, after many a summer sighs the Dewan. It is as long a summer as I can remember. One day after another of cool Meltini, ghastly for the people who charter yachts, heavenly for us. We don't even go to the beach, partly because David is having miserable headaches, which sun aggravates, partly because I'm content to stay in my study. Evenings are quiet too. Wine no longer seems to agree with anyone, and restaurants are so absurdly crowded. The iron gates of life have seldom seen such traffic, to judge from the confused rumor that reaches us here in the shade of the pearly ones. The real absurdity, you will say, and I'll agree, it's all still so novel, is to feel in one's bones how utterly a boundary has been crossed. Here one is in later life, and it's perfectly pleasant, really. Not for a moment that garden of cactus and sour grapes I'd always assumed it must be. Oh dear, this sort of thing is probably just what you mean by my being recessed into myself. At least I can't imagine what else you mean. But it's odd. I mean, the times of greatest recession into the self have always been, for me, times of helpless suffering, such as you're going through, when there's no escape from the self. Perhaps any circumstance, any frame of mind, content, pain, trust, distrust, is a niche that limits visibility, both for the occupant and the onlooker. I read your last letter in any case with pangs of recognition. There's no special comfort, is there, in being understood at times like these? One is so mortified by one's predicament, and at the same moment so curiously proud of its ramifications. You won't be ready yet to like the fact of belonging to a very large group who've all had, allowing for particular differences, the same general experience. Later on, when your sense of humor and proportion returns, that fact ought rather to please you. To have so shared in the, or at least a, human condition. Write me as much or as little about it as you see fit. As you say, the particulars should probably be saved for the couch. Don't waste time feeling superior to your doctor. You are no doubt cleverer and more presentable than he is. But with any luck, he knows his business, and the shoes he is making for you will last and last. Also, don't be too hard on yourself if your work suffers, if your thesis molders or your poetry congeals, because right now your task is the other matter. The other evening, we made an exception and went next door to meet Alan Anson's house guest, a Mr. Burroughs, sallow, nondescript party who talked of nothing but drugs and sex crimes, just like my mother's Atlanta friends. Alan seems to have been very helpful in putting together the manuscript of a book this man wrote, The Nude Meal. Indeed, still had the manuscript, which Mr. B came all the way to Athens to repossess in order to sell it, n'importe being marketable nowadays. Luckily, dear old Eddie Gaythorne Hardy was there. He told a story about a chair he'd had recaned at great trouble and expense, then thought of it and said, I wish somebody would recane me. That will be all for now. With love, James.